والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. All praises due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most gracious, the most merciful. Peace and blessings be upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope everyone is doing well. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us yet another Friday. Alhamdulillah. So many people out there who were present in the last Friday and they're not present in this Friday, right? Alhamdulillah, we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us another Friday. We're also thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us all the luxuries of life, right? Sitting here in the United States of America. Alhamdulillah, we are just drowning in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People out there in third world countries, for example in Pakistan, so much flood, people are still recovering, right? Even recovery over there takes a long time. And I'm sure the people in Florida, they'll probably recover faster than the people in Pakistan, right? Even though the flood happened like a month ago, but they'll take it. It's going to take them much longer to recover. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to thank Him more and more. You just can't thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enough. So that's something we need to always do, inshallah. Today's topic. So since this is the month of Rabiul Awwal, right? So I figured we should talk about Seerah. However, I don't want to talk about the Seerah itself because just 20 minutes is just not enough, right? Seerah could take hours and a month, right? Several different topics to cover in the Seerah. But what I could do today, inshallah, is that we'll talk about the importance of Seerah. How about we talk about the importance of Seerah, importance of studying Seerah. That way, if I can encourage all of you, if not all of us, some of us, to go study the Seerah, and then we go and study Seerah, then we can take the real benefit of it. Otherwise, if I just tell you maybe a glimpse of a Seerah, that's just a dot. Just basically from the timeline of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'll just give you a little bit. Instead of doing that, if I could just encourage you to go study Seerah, wouldn't that be better? Yes? Inshallah. So that's my goal today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala aid and assist me in getting my point across, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to understand the points, inshallah. Anything good that comes out of it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any shortcoming is from shaitan. So let's begin, inshallah. So the word Seerah, it comes from the Arabic word Sin, Ya and Ra, Sayr. You know, in Urdu too, you have the word Sayr karne ja rahe, right? What does that mean? To travel, right? If you go to travel, you go for a stroll, Sayr, right? But Seerah, now in Arabic, one root word can have so many different meanings, right? So when you get to Seerah means the journey of life. The journey of life. Understand? Sayr is just a journey, just one trip that you take, right? But Seerah means the journey of life. Or you could say the biography of an individual, right? So then, if someone decides to collect the biography of a person, they have to go through a lot of difficulty, right? They have to first find all the reliable sources, right? And people who could tell them about that person's from the birth till the death, right? Then that would complete the biography of the person, right? Once it's completely, authentically put together, then people get benefit from it. And there's a lot of benefits from it. And I'll just mention some of them. The primary benefit of studying Seerah is that you get to know a person's life, right? You get to understand. Otherwise, you might know some sayings of a person, oh, this person said something, or maybe this person was a good businessman, some aspect of their life. But unless and until you don't study the seerah, you don't know their entire life, right? So one benefit is that you get to know their life. You also get to know their habits, right? A lot of times, the habit of a person is not, you won't be able to tell just by hearing their different statements or their business, right? Maybe you might get their business habits, but their life habits, you won't catch them, right? So in a seerah, you'll be able to catch their habits. You'll be able to catch their spirituality, right? What was their spiritual state? What was their motives behind different things they did? You'll be able to figure out the sacrifices they made in their life, right? So just by studying someone's seerah, you get all of this information. Once you get all of this information, now you can truly figure out how that person was, right? Before that, you knew some things about that person, but you didn't know the entire timeline of that person. You couldn't get a summary from the entire timeline of a person, right? Now, after learning seerah, you could get all the detail, right? Sometimes people can be misconstrued, right? Imagine if someone defames another person, right? And you find out that, oh, this person is claiming that this person did that, such and such thing. And you knew the seerah of the person. So you're going to say, oh, this is lie. So I know the seerah of the person, and knowing the seerah of the person, I can tell that there's no way he could do this, right? Imagine like you know a friend, you knew him from elementary school, throughout the school you knew him, right? And then later on, afterwards, he got disconnected from that person. And then somehow you found out, someone told you that, oh, this person, I caught him, I found out that he was a murderer. He committed a murder. So automatically you're going to be, no, he wasn't that person. I knew him from the beginning. There's no way he could commit a murder. I know his seerah. I know his biography. There's no way he could do that, right? So you can only make such and such claim if you know a person inside out. Give you an example. You know Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs, he invented the Apple and all that, right? So people think of him as a great person. You know, he's a pioneer of Apple computer and iPhones. But then as soon as his biography came out, people found out the real him. They're like, no, this person was a tyrant. The way he dealt with his employees was so bad. So then, because of his seerah, they saw his seerah, they realized he wasn't really a good person. So all the things that we found out just by his Apple computer, we were just praising him based off of his business. But if you look at his real life, the whole timeline, turns out he was a bad person, right? On the flip side, sometimes you'll find even non-Muslims. There was a French guy. He hated Islam, and he wanted to write a book against Islam. Okay, so then he decided to go research Islam. He decided to look into the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he looked and he looked and he looked, and he was so impressed that he accepted Islam. Subhanallah. So the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam completely cancelled all the propaganda that this person had heard. Imagine that. So the seerah has that kind of effect on it, right? Individual little pieces of information, they mean nothing. The real information is in the seerah of the person. You can also have someone who already likes Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, however, he doesn't have that much love, right? So then that person looks into the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You see his iman going up, his a'mal going up. Automatically, he is the most pious person in society. So seerah does that. On the flip side, a bad person that you hear about Hitler, right? We all know he did some bad things. If you look at his seerah, his life, you find out he's done much more worse things. So you hate him even more, right? So seerah can do that, and that's why it's incumbent, it's very important for each and every one of us to go study the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's different programs that happen in Rabiul Awwal, right? This month, the seerah programs, So those are beneficial, alhamdulillah, they are definitely beneficial. However, they still cannot encapsulate the entire life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How much can you encapsulate in a few hours? Right? Maybe some instances, some stories of the Madani time, some stories from the Meccan time period, right? And maybe some instances from before Nubuwwah, his youth, right? But you cannot encapsulate the whole thing in a few bayans, right? So in order to truly get the understanding of Rasul, the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we need to study it ourselves. And maybe the older generation, maybe they already know a lot of it, but I know for a fact that the younger generation, they know nothing. They know nothing about it, right? So our children, they are Muslims, but they have no affinity towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They don't have much love towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is that true? It's very true, right? So why is that? Because us as parents, do we have a Seerah book in our library? Do we every now and then sit down and read the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with our children? Do we do that? We don't do that. So therefore, maybe we might have affinity towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but our children will definitely not, right? So we need to do that. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that. He mentions that لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه من ولده ووالده والناس أجمعين. So it mentions that a person cannot be a perfect believer, perfect mu'min, perfect, the one with the perfect characteristics, unless and until that person loves Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than his own children, more than his own parents, and more than anyone in the society. Understand? So someone is telling us that if you want that perfect iman, then you must love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than anyone. So how could you love someone if you don't even know that person? How could you love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? How could you claim to be a lover of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam if you don't even know his life? It's a very difficult thing to claim, right? If someone is claiming that without knowing the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's just lip service. It's just lip service, right? Imagine if a person, I'll give you an example. Someone's father, as soon as the child, there's a lot of bad relationships, and the father leaves the house as soon as the child is born, right? The father leaves, and then 20 years later, the child is grown up and he meets the father, or she meets the father. Would the child have any affinity with the father? He's just a stranger. I don't know you, right? You left me when I needed you, right? So you're like a stranger to me. I don't know anything about you. My mother did not tell me anything about you, right? The only thing she told me is that you're a bad person and you left me at a young age. So there's no affinity. Even though they're biologically related, there's zero affinity, no love, right? On the flip side, another example, you have a child whose father passes away at a young age. Father was a gem of a person, and as the child is growing up, the mother keeps reminding the child of the father, how the father was, okay? So then the father grows up to love the child grows up to love the father a lot. The child might say that, inshallah, when I meet dad on the day of judgment, inshallah, when I meet dad in Jannah, we'll talk about this, we'll talk about that, because he was informed about the father. And he liked the father's character, as told by the mother, right? So how did that happen? Because of that information. Because of the information. If the mother hadn't told the child about the child would not have any affinity with the father at all. So similarly, if we don't tell and inform our children about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and ourselves, if we don't ourselves study the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then what's going to happen? We're not going to have the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I'll just give you a slight benefit of loving Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One is that your iman will become complete, right? Iman will become complete. Second is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that al-mar'u ma'a man ahabba. We've all heard of this hadith, right? The person, an individual, will be with the one he loves the most on the day of judgment and in Jannah, inshallah. So imagine if we start loving Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam a lot, and then on the day of judgment, because of our love, love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we are in the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the day of judgment. And we know that on the day of judgment, people won't be hanging out randomly. We know that, right? So all the good people, pious people will be together. And then the wretched people, the people who are going into the hellfire, they'll be together. You can't have like a mixed gathering over there. The gathering will be based on your actions and your a'mal and your outcome. That's how the gatherings will be divided, right? So if you are going to be placed next to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then what does that mean? That means the rest of the journey is good. You're all set, right? But instead, in this world, we spend our life researching about maybe LeBron James. We know the history of his life. We know his biography, or any celebrity. We know all about them. But when someone asks you, can you tell me about the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He was the last prophet, and that's it. That's it. So does that person have more love for that celebrity, or he has more love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Probably for the celebrity, right? So we need to change that. We need to change that in society, and we need to take some steps, remind our children to just sit down. There are so many books of Seerah out there online. There are so many books in English as well. You can download them, you can buy them, and start studying them, and start teaching our children about that. Inshallah, they'll start loving Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A lot of times they'll hear things in the media, social media, that might put a doubt in their mind about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if they know the Seerah, they'll be protected. Very sound, very strong faith, very strong knowledge about the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the habits of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They'll also know the sacrifices that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made. For us to be Muslims, all the people who are Muslims, who were born Muslims, that's only because of the sacrifice Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made, right? So we owe him a lot, and the least we could do is study his life. As soon as we study his life, we'll love him a lot and a lot and a lot. And also, once we have the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we could still have shortcomings in our a'mal, but because of that strong love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inshallah, our akhirah is good. Our hereafter is good, inshallah. You see that sometimes father and son, they have a lot of love. The son loves the father a lot, but he sometimes disobeys the father here and there, right? But on one side, he will try his best to emulate the father, right? He loves the father, and father has a good character, he'll try to emulate the father. Okay, he does this, I will also try. Sees the father praying, he'll copy the father, he'll also start praying, right? Similarly, when we love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we'll try to emulate Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as much as we can. As much as we can. We will see that how did Rasulullah spend his morning time, noon time, afternoon, how did he do business, how did he deal with people in society. We'll try to emulate each and every aspect of his life. How did he appear? How did he make his appearance? So we'll try to copy that as well. Right, slowly. The more we copy him, the more closer we're getting to him. And how did that all start? Started from us studying the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, after studying the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or during studying the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Shaitan also comes into the picture sometimes, and he will try to misguide you. And I'll tell you how. Sometimes when people have a lot of love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, out of the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they might do certain things that ruin their aqidah, that ruins their aqidah. And this is what happened with the followers of Isa alayhi salam, right? Shaitan came in and he said that you love Isa alayhi salam so much that, just make him the son. Basically, they made him the son of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They took him at the level of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? On the day of judgment, Isa alayhi salam will say that everything that these guys did, I have no share in that. I did not teach him even the tiniest bit of that. So today, even among the Muslimun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us, but we see these characteristics. We see them taking Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to that level. Now there is some groups of people, they claim that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is all-knowing, all-hearing. What is that? These are sifat, these are attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only, right? So we cannot take a prophet to that level of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That would be what? Shirk. Shirk in the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So if we want to know, so first from the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we'll get to love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if we want to know how to revere and how to honor Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we have to go see how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's Sahaba did that, right? Because who can claim that they love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than the Sahaba, right? So we have to go to the life of the Sahaba and see how they honored Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When you go in the military, right? In the military, you have certain codes of conduct. Like a person like a soldier has a certain way he's gonna respect the general, maybe, right? He cannot do everything. He can't just bow down. There's a certain code of conduct, right? Even over there, right? He's gonna do a salute or whatever their code of conduct is, right? Similarly, out of our love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we cannot do anything and everything we wish, right? There are certain code of conduct. For example, the Sahaba never celebrated the birthday of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So now if we start celebrating the birthday of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that going against the code of conduct? It is, right? So we need to respect and honor Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam the way the Sahaba did that. Nothing more, nothing less. So if we could do that, then our love is intact, and on the day of judgment, when we see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he'll meet us while being happy, right? Imagine if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam finds out that such and such person loves Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam a lot. Rasulullah gets happy, but then he also finds out that, oh, because of that love, now he is doing such and such a'mal that are close to kufr, right? Close to shirk. He'll be unhappy, right? So we want to make sure that first we learn the Seerah, we love the Rasul, love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but at the same time we don't surpass the boundaries of expressing our love, inshallah. Then even if we have shortcomings in our a'mal, inshallah they will be forgiven. Inshallah we'll enter into Jannah. We'll be in the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the day of judgment. So we have a couple of minutes. Let's summarize. No, before summarizing, I want to mention one more thing. So if you look at the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you want to just I'll give you one simple principle that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam lived by. Okay, and this principle could apply in all aspects of life. Would you guys like to know that? Yes. So you've already heard of it probably, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that when it comes to the worshipping, right? So it mentions that when you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if you are seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So the term for that is ihsan, right? The level of ihsan. So ihsan means the level of perfection, okay? And this level of perfection, it's not only restricted to worshiping. All walks of life, every aspect of life. You know, us Muslims, anything that we do, business, your work, at home, no matter what you do, you should aspire for perfection. Ihsan. How do you do that? By always thinking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if you're seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So imagine when you're doing a business transaction and you have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in mind, would you be able to cheat the other person? You won't be able to cheat the other person, right? So mentions if you cannot do that, then at least do one step below that, which is do anything that you do as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you. If you cannot assume that you are seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then assume the other way around, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always watching you. Then automatically all of your actions in your life will become good, will just become good if you live by this principle. Another hadith I'll mention and we'll end with that inshallah, with regards to dealing with people, right? So in the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we'll see that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam dealing his relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and also his relationship with people. Okay, so now with the relationship with people, I'll just give you a simple hadith, and that could just be a principle. If we live by that principle, we'll just become the best people in society. You want to know that as well? So mentions that Al-Khalqu Iyadullah, that the creation, all of the creation is a family of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Rasul mentions Al-Khalq, Khalq is referring to human being, jinn kind, animals, trees, everything. It includes everything, right? So Rasul mentions that the best among all of us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is good to the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as soon as we are good to the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, automatically what is our relationship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We are best to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts liking us more. If we are good to people, good to animals, good to everyone, then automatically we're good to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was commanded that he spreads the message in a gentle manner. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that, Ya Rasulullah, if you had not been gentle to people, they would have run away from you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran that if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had not been gentle to people, they would have run away. So today, we should survey our life, our morning to evening. How many times are we harsh to people? How many times there were opportunities to be nice to people, but because of our personal vendetta, we were mean to them, right? So never took any revenge from people for his personal sake, never. Even the Sahaba like that. Once a Sahabi was in a battle, and someone he was about to kill a person, opponent, and that opponent spits on his face, right? So then he doesn't kill him anymore, because now if he had killed him, it would have been because of the spitting. It would have been because of his personal cause, right? So he didn't do that. So we need to put aside our personal cause, right? Personal hatred for people. We need to love everyone for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Al-hubbu fillah wal-bughdu fillah. Love also for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hate also only and only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we can keep these principles in mind, inshallah we'll get close to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and will be in the vicinity of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the day of judgment. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله علي الذات عظيم الصفات سميع السمات كبير الشان جليل القدر في الذكر مطاع الأمر جليل البرهان فخيم الاسم عزيز العلم وسيل الحلم كثير الغفران جميل الثناء جزيل العطاء مجيب الدعاء عميم الإحسان سريع الحساب شديد العقاب أليم العذاب عزيز السلطان ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له في الخلق والأمر ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله المبعوث إلى الأسود والأحمر المنعوت بشرح الصدر ورفع الذكر وصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه الذين هم خلاصة العرب العرباء وخير الخلائق بعد الأنبياء. أما بعد فيا أيها الناس وحدوا الله فإن التوحيد رأس الطاعات واتقوا الله فإن التقوى ملاك الحسنات وعليكم بالسنة فإن السنة تهدي إلى الطاعة ومن أطاع الله ورسوله فقد رشد واهتدى وإياكم البدعة فإن البدعة تهدي إلى المعصية ومن يعص الله ورسوله فقد ضل وغوى وعليكم بالصدق فإن الصدق ينجي والكذب يهلك وعليكم بالإحسان فإن الله يحب المحسنين ولا تقنطوا من رحمة الله فإنه أرحم الراحمين ولا تحب الدنيا وتكونوا من الخاسرين ألا وإن النفس لن تموت حتى تستكمل رزقها فاتقوا الله واجملوا في الطلب وتوكلوا عليه فإن الله يحب المتوكلين ودعوه فإن ربكم مجيب الداعين واستغفروه يمددكم بأموال وبنين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وقال ربكم ادعوني يستجب لكم إن الذين يستكبرون عن عبادتي سيدخلون جهنم داخرين. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم. أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله نستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات وبارك على محمد وأزواجه وذرياته. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر، وأشدهم في أمر الله عمر، وأصدقهم حياء عثمان، وأقضاهم علي، وفاطمة سيدة نساء أهل الجنة، والحسن والحسين سيدا شباب أهل الجنة، وحمزة رسول الله وأسد رسوله. اللهم اغفر للعباس وولده مغفرة ظاهرة وباطنة لا تغادر ذنبا. الله الله في أصحابه لا تتخذوهم غرضا من بعدي، فمن أحبهم فبحبي أحبهم، ومن أبغضهم فببغضي أبغضهم. وخير أمتي قرني، ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. والسلطان ذو الله في الأرض، من أهان سلطان الله في الأرض أهانه الله. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون. أقيموا صفوفكم. Please straighten all the rows. Make sure you guys fill on the gaps, and make sure you're aligned by the heels. Someone make sure that every row is aligned by the heel. Everyone, some person from every row, inshallah, try to make sure there's a gap there. Try to fill in all the gaps. I see gaps there as well. Also, make sure your phones are turned off or put on silent. Jazakumullah khair. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والسماء والطارق وما أدراك ما الطارق النجم الثاقب إن كل نفس لما عليها حافظ فلينظر الإنسان مما خلق من ماء دافق يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب إنه على رجعه لقادر يوم تبلى السرائر فما له من قوة ولا ناصر والسماء ذات الرجع والأرض ذات الصدع إنه لقول فصل وما هو بالهزل إنهم يكيدون كيدا وأكيد كيدا فمهل الكافرين أمهلهم رويدا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربك أوحى لها يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. ومنك السلام ومنك السلام وتبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك وغضبك والنار. اللهم أجرنا من النار. اللهم أجرنا من النار. اللهم أجرنا من النار. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وعملا صالحا متقبلا ورزقا حلالا طيبا واسعا وشفاء من كل داء. اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين. اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, forgive all of our sins. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, forgive our major sins, our minor sins. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, keep us upon the straight path. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, enable us to learn the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, enable us to have a lot of tremendous amount of love with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, safeguard our iman. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give all of us death upon iman. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, safeguard the iman of our progenies till the day of judgment. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give us righteous actions, enable us to do righteous actions. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give us Mubarak and blessed rizq. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give us blessed rizq. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all the people who are sick and all the people who are injured, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give them a perfect cure. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give them, grant them perfect and swift cure. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all the people who have passed away, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from our relatives, from the Muslimun, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, grant them Jannatul Firdaus, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make their graves a garden from Jannah, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, grant them Jannatul Firdaus, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ منه نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم أنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين آمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.